Consider a psychological reality that may alter how you view every connection in your existence. By the conclusion, you will comprehend why certain individuals closest to you abruptly became cold, distant, or even aggressive. Carl Jung, a towering intellect in psychology, revealed something deeply significant about human nature. Something that clarifies not only the confusion you experience in relationships, but the concealed reason behind immense emotional hurt. Jung noted that most individuals will do nearly anything to avoid facing their own shadow. The hidden, rejected, uncomfortable fragments of themselves they have locked away because they're too painful to confront. These are the traits, emotions, and truths we refuse to admit exist within us. The shadow is not evil. It is merely unconscious. But what occurs when you start to awaken? The instant you begin to heal, truly heal, when you start evolving beyond old cycles, when you finally start claiming ownership of your life, something peculiar happens. You cease fitting into the roles others had quietly assigned to you. You stop being the version of yourself that made them comfortable. And suddenly, without warning, the energy changes. Your growth becomes menacing. Your evolution becomes offensive. And the people around you, friends, family, partners, begin treating you as if you are the issue. But you're not the issue. Jung's work reveals something far more profound is occurring. When you start healing, you unknowingly become a living mirror. A mirror that reflects back to others the precise parts of themselves they have tried to bury. Your transformation shines a light on everything they are still avoiding, still denying, still refusing to address. And it is in that moment, when your presence exposes their avoidance, that something Carl Jung termed projection is activated. They begin projecting their own unhealed wounds, their fear of change, their emotional stagnation, not inward where it belongs, but outward onto you. You are not being rejected because you have changed into something bad. You are being rejected because you have evolved into a version of yourself that reminds them of everything they refuse to become. You represent a truth they are not ready to face. Jung famously stated, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But the truth is, most people are not prepared for that kind of self-awareness. It is easier to lash out than to look within. It is easier to blame the mirror than to face what is being reflected. So instead of introspection, they choose accusation. Instead of curiosity, they choose criticism. And instead of growth, they choose to pull you back down because your ascent threatens their comfort zone. And it does not matter how kind you are or how compassionate you try to be. Your very existence becomes uncomfortable for them. And here is where everything begins to make sense. Why your relationships start feeling so heavy, so tense, even painful, right when you begin healing, when you finally start becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. According to Carl Jung, every human carries what he calls the shadow self. Not just bad qualities or dark urges, but the full spectrum of repressed emotions, unlived desires, wounded beliefs, and even potential we refuse to embrace. These parts do not disappear. They wait silently in the unconscious. And unless you face them, they will control your life in the background, appearing in your relationships, your triggers, your fears. So when you finally decide to face your shadow, when you stop running from your past, stop playing small, stop hiding who you truly are, something powerful begins to happen inside you. You begin to integrate the shadow. You start becoming whole. But that wholeness comes at a cost, because those who are still running, still hiding from their own truth, will begin to feel deeply unsettled around you. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your authenticity forces them to confront their own masks. Your clarity reveals their confusion. Your strength highlights their helplessness. Your peace makes their inner chaos impossible to ignore. This is why the moment you begin individuation, the term Jung used for the journey of becoming your true, integrated self, you often trigger a storm in others. And ironically, it is not strangers who react the most. It is the people who once depended on your smaller self. The ones who were comfortable with your silence, your compliance, your emotional labor. When you begin to change, they do not say, "I am proud of you." Instead, they say, "You have changed," but not as a compliment. Because in Jung's framework, they are not seeing you clearly at all. They're seeing the parts of themselves they buried and blaming you for digging them up. This is the mechanism of shadow projection. You may notice people twisting your intentions, rewriting history, claiming you have become selfish, cold, arrogant, even when all you have done is set boundaries or honor your truth. But what they are really saying is, you are no longer manageable. You are no longer keeping me comfortable at your own expense. Carl Jung believed that few things were more threatening to the unconscious mind than genuine transformation. Because real change, real growth, requires death. The death of the false self, the death of egoic control, the death of the image others had of you. And when you stop matching that image, when you step outside the box they kept you in, they often try to punish you for the crime of becoming real. Now let us go deeper, because once you begin healing, not surface-level, performative healing, but actual internal transformation, your reality starts shifting in ways you never expected. Not only do your old patterns fall away, but the people who once seemed so familiar now start to feel foreign. Carl Jung taught that the path to authenticity begins with the integration of the shadow, the dark, hidden part of ourselves that we deny, suppress, or project onto others. And this shadow is not just about what is bad in us. It is everything we have rejected: our sensitivity, our anger, our power, our vulnerability, our creativity, even our joy. These aspects were often pushed into the unconscious during childhood. Maybe you were told that anger makes you unlovable, or that being too expressive makes you annoying, or that setting boundaries is selfish. So you lock those parts away. But when you start healing, you begin reclaiming what was lost. You start calling those disowned pieces back home. And suddenly you are no longer easy to control. You begin speaking up. You begin saying no without guilt. You begin asking for what you need without apologizing. You stop playing the victim and start taking responsibility. And most importantly, you stop dimming your light just to make others comfortable in their own darkness. And this is where the real tension begins. Because not everyone in your life is ready for the version of you that is awake. In fact, many people only know how to relate to the version of you that tolerated mistreatment, lacked boundaries, or stayed silent. That version served them. But the healed version of you, the version that has standards, clarity, and direction, that version threatens everything they constructed around their own avoidance. Carl Jung said it clearly: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. When you start making your unconscious conscious, when you shine light on your shadow, you become a walking disruption to those still living in denial. Your very presence becomes uncomfortable for people who are still asleep to their own internal chaos. And they do not realize what they are doing, but their unconscious reacts to your growth with resistance. They start projecting their suppressed feelings onto you. It is not that you become a bad person. It is that you become a mirror they cannot stand to look into. Projection, according to Jung, is when a person attributes their disowned traits, emotions, or motives onto someone else, usually unconsciously. So, they will say you have changed with bitterness, when what they really mean is you no longer make them feel safe in their avoidance. They will say you are selfish because you stopped putting their needs before your own. They will accuse you of being too much, too distant, too cold, because your boundaries now feel like abandonment to someone who depended on your lack of them. And here is the painful truth. People do not hate you for who you are. They hate you for shattering the illusion they were comfortable with. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your boundaries reflect their helplessness. Your peace becomes a reminder of their internal chaos. Your self-worth makes them confront the ways they betrayed their own. This is why healing often feels so lonely. Because you're not just outgrowing situations, you're outgrowing identities that were never truly yours. You're peeling away the mask that made other people feel comfortable. And they may not even realize they only love the mask, not the real you beneath it. Carl Jung referred to this journey as individuation, the psychological process of becoming the most authentic, undivided version of yourself. It is not easy. It requires a breaking away from the collective norm. It means risking rejection in exchange for wholeness. And it means making peace with the fact that some people will never celebrate your evolution. Not because you become worse, but because your transformation exposes the places in them that have remained untouched, unhealed, and unfaced. So yes, your healing may trigger others. Yes, your boundaries may cost you relationships. Yes, your truth may invite resistance. But none of that means you are on the wrong path. In fact, according to Jungian psychology, it means you're finally walking the only path that was ever truly yours.